Welcome to Lesson 9.5, Using Tables, Rules, and Graphs. In this lesson, we're just going to talk about how to take the information that we're given in a table and put it into a graph. So if you look at your notes, you see that we have this table and this graph right here, and we're going to go over how we got the information from here and put it into here. This information will be fairly review for you, so just make sure to go with me here, and hopefully we can get through this pretty quickly. Right, the table at the left shows the relationship between the number of inches, our input, and the number of feet, our output. The rule is F is equal to N divided by 12, where N is our input, or number of inches. F represents the number of feet. Okay, so we're going to graph the relationship represented by the table. So what this means is we have to fill out our labels and our intervals. And in this case, since we have a pretty standard idea of how our intervals are going to go, we can make our intervals the same as the inches. So in this case, we have 0, of course, starting here. And our intervals are going to go by 12. And the reason we're going by 12 is because we know that for every foot, we're going to get 12 inches. So we put 12, 24, 36, 48. And even though our table doesn't go past 48, we know that 48 plus 12 is 60. So we can include 60. We can also put the number of feet, which does go up by 1. So we just put 1, 2, 3, and 4. Okay, so now what we do is we match up. We say, okay, so for every 1 foot, we get 12 inches. For every 2 feet, we get 24 inches. Every 3 feet, 36 inches. And every 4 feet is 48 inches. And then again, we've talked about getting a straight edge and making this line nice and straight. And the reason that we do that is so that when we extend this line onward, we can match up and realize that when we have 5 feet, it should match up with 60 inches. And when we have 6 feet, it should match up with 72 inches. But if we don't make our line straight, that won't match up and our answers will be incorrect. So it's really important to make sure that we're putting these lines on here and making sure everything is nice, neat, straight, and that our intervals are all equal. Otherwise, when you're using the graph to make predictions, your predictions could be very, very far off. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we're going to take this word problem. I will help you create a function, but then you need to graph the rule. So a plant grows 1 38/100 centimeters for each hour of sunlight it receives. Write and graph a rule to find the growth of the plant when it receives 4 hours of sunlight. Okay, so we have to highlight the important information. It grows 1 38/100 centimeters for each hour of sunlight it receives. Okay. So now we know that if it gets 1 hour of sunlight, we can multiply that by the 1 38/100 inches that it will grow. If it gets 2 hours of sunlight, we can multiply that by the 1 38/100 inches it will grow. 3 hours and 4 hours. Now, instead of writing this out all these different times with all these different numbers, you'll notice that these numbers change and this is your constant. So for that reason, since this changes, this is where we use our variable. In this case, we will say that the growth, so G of the plant, is equal to the number of hours times, and now we'll use 1 38/100 as the constant, and this will be our rule. So you have to be able to take information from a problem, create the rule, and now you have to create a table and a graph that can show me what the growth rate of this plant is going to look like. So in your notes, you need to make your table and you need to make your graph. When you post on Edmodo, I want you to post in 1 hour, it will be this tall. In 2 hours, it will be this tall. And I want you to do that all the way up to 4 hours. As always, if you have any questions, make sure to write them down or post them on Edmodo so we can go over them in class.